What's going on, mountain bikers and racing fans? This is Jason Schroeder, and I'm stoked to bring you pre-World Cup discussions this downhill season as part of our new Vital MTB Downhill Fantasy. So each round, we will break down which racers you should keep an eye on going into the weekend, who's going fast in years past, and try to give you some insight to help make the best fantasy picks. Since this is the first time we've done this, I'm going to run through all of the rules surrounding fantasy just to give everybody an idea of what you're in store for. So each round, you get $1 million budget to build a race team. Rider values change from race to race and are based on past results from both the previous season and races. There's no limit on team size, but you have to include at least a rider from all four categories. So both elite fields, both junior fields. Fantasy closes for team building on the morning of finals day, and points are only awarded to riders who finish in finals. Points are paid the same as UCI points for finals, so $250 for elite categories, $60 for juniors. And to play, all you have to do is create a Vital account. Each round, the top 5 players are going to win prizes from SRAM RockShox, FSA, Maxxis, and Trolley Designs. There's also going to be a top 5 overall prize at the end of the season for players with the highest total points. For Fort William this weekend, first place is going to win a Boxer Ultimate Fork. Second place gets a TLD stage helmet. Third place wins an FSA Gravity Bar and Stem combo. Fourth gets a set of Maxxis tires. And fifth place gets a Vital t-shirt. And honestly, the Vital tee is priceless because we don't even make those right now. For this first round pre-race chit chat, I'm joined by John Hall and Tanner Stevens. And for those who don't know, John was Aaron's mechanic the past 10 years on the World Cup circuit. This year, he's stepped away from the racing circus and is now the technical director at Intent Cycles. John brings a ton of knowledge to just the World Cup circuit from having boots on the ground for so many years. I'm really excited to hear his insight into what it's like to be at these races. And Tanner is one of my good friends and probably best known nowadays for being a co-host on our B Practice podcast. That was very long-winded, but thank you, dudes, for being here and joining me on this journey.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, dude. Stoked to be here.
All right, a lot of Fort William talk coming at us here in a few, and a lot of off-season stuff to talk about. Let's chat it up for a moment. John, so many years wrenching for Aaron. I'm curious what your standout memory is from being a World Cup mechanic during your pretty awesome career.
Oh, man. Dude, there's a lot. Over
Is
10
there
years.
one that rises above the rest?
Not really. They're all just special and different in their moments. You could say the first win was standout, but if I'm being 100% honest, it wasn't. Because I was so naive to how hard things truly were to win one of those things. So the first one we won was my first race with him. And I was like, yeah, that's what we do. That's just normal. So it's not that big of a deal. Like, it was job done and on to the next type of thing. And I quickly realized how hard that is. So I didn't realize how special it was until much, much later. And then there's just other, accomplishments. We were on a streak where we kind of joked around, and I think we won the first World Cup like 3 years in a row. And so we had this deal called first race, first place. We had that thing going for a little bit, and it was like, I think we did it. I think twice on Specialized, and then the first year on YT. So we did it from team to team and different tracks and different types of years. So those are always special. I try to block out the most famous runs of the flat tire and the chainless runs and stuff like that, but they are unique. I still get sent videos from people who know that I work on bikes, or I did it at that level at some sort, but they don't really know. So I've legit been sent that video by friends that are like, dude, have you seen this dude who won a run with no chain? I was like, yeah, I was there. I watched it right there to start. So, there's so many special ones, but no, there's not one that like completely stands out. I feel pretty lucky that we had a whole bunch of standout ones. There wasn't just one or two. There was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot of bullet points under you and Aaron working together. So pretty
Yeah.
sweet to see. It was cool. It was cool to know you kind of right before then, and then watch this awesome career unfold. So congrats.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that's kind of how I got my start wrenching with Rich Houseman on the at the time it was Trek, ODI Trek. With dude, Logan Mullally was on that program for a little bit, like Mullally brothers and Trek and Gwynny, and he was coaching you guys. I think it was you and Charlie and John Buckle and that kind of SoCal crew. And then it was Specialized ODI, and it was you, Charlie, and Shane Leslie. So yeah, you and I and Chuck go back quite a few years. I actually have a picture of, dude, you laugh. Like, I don't know if I should show it. Charlie, I think it's Angel Fire of me and Chuck. One of the first races we all wrenched together. Might have been national champs like 2011 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah,
somewhere back in that day.
Yeah.
There's a picture of me and young Chuck. He's got the Atlas neck brace, the huge bell helmet, and everything, dude.
Yeah, big throwback.
Big throwback.
Sick. All right, a Fort William related question. How many wheels would you guess you've broken at Fort William over the years? And do you think it's the toughest track on bikes?
It's certainly one of the toughest tracks on bikes. If there's probably three. I'd say Fort William, Mont Saint Anne, and Val d'Isole, all for kind of different reasons. Val d'Isole is not necessarily that rough on bikes because of the track, but it's difficult to ride, so there's a lot of crashes, and it's real steep. A lot of times the roughness on the bike is due to a bike tomahawking down, and Greg famously snapped a frame in half because his frame wrapped around a wooden post. So Mont Saint Anne, that's fast and rough. Mont Saint Anne and Fort William have a lot of similarities in that sense. As far as the amount of wheels that we've broken at Fort William, a lot less recently in recent years. In early years, wheel technology kind of across the board with everybody wasn't fantastic. They got the job done, but we were certainly pushing the limits of what wheels could handle at the World Cups there for a little while. But Fort William and Mont Saint Anne did their number. I think one year we probably went through 15 or 20 between three races, where it was like Ben Arnott and I have some war stories from races like that where a rider comes down, and it wasn't always necessarily a wheel. It was the rider would get a flat and then keep charging down, and then the wheel would break. So it wasn't even necessarily that the wheel would break. It'd be a flat, then a wheel, or a wheel would break, but no flat, or a wheel would break and then you would get a flat. So you could never really tell always what exactly happened, but it would destroy stuff. And we'll continue to do so. But I'll say the most recent years with the product that we were on, and it's not an ad, no affiliation anymore, with E13, those wheels were fantastic towards these last couple of years where, like, man, between 3 and 4 riders, like over a season, we would maybe crack or have to replace 5 or less. So it's a bit of a testament to the product, the bikes, the tracks, the riders getting much smoother and stuff like that too. But there were years where we'd go through double digits pretty easily. But most recent years, like single digits over the course of a year with E13. So
crazy.
That's all I can speak to, really. I mean, we ran E13 wheels for the majority of my 10 years with Aaron.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. There's going to be some struggles, though. And like I said, it's no less relenting. Fort William is Fort William. It's a monster track and rough. There's going to be some flats and there's going to be some mechanicals.
Yep. Guaranteed. Can't avoid it.
Guaranteed.
All right, Tanner, I got a question for you.
Hit me with it.
Describe what midges are for those that have never been to Fort William.
Man.
They're blood-sucking, soul-sucking, little tiny flies, basically. Those things, There's a reason why you don't see footage of Fort William's tree sections or the woods, because no one wants to dare to stand there for more than a minute. I was there. The only time I raced Fort William was in 2017, which was the year of the mud pits and swamps. And that year, I remember taking off my goggles once. It was probably like the second or third lap of practice, first day. And I took off my goggles in the woods and I put them back on just to see little flies biting my eyeballs inside of my goggles. And yeah, never again did I stop in the woods, which I probably should have. But yeah, there are little flies that bite you, little biting flies, and they love any open skin they will attack.
Yeah, for the Americans, they're essentially a gnat or a flea like animal. They're tiny and annoying. That's one thing that's good at Fort William is if or at least a breeze, they don't typically come around. Or if there is weather or rain, they're not around. But man, the second that the wind chills out and the sun comes out, I mean, it's like a cloud. You can see them moving through. And you can't stop moving. You have to wear long sleeve everything. You'll see some mechanics working with bug nets over their head. Like, it gets hectic and it'll drive you insane.
Yeah. I've still never been to Fort William. You know, I always avoided it because it was kind of out there and it looked really hard and rough. And then I heard about the bugs and I'm like, I'll keep pushing it off. Maybe one of these days I'll make it, but not in a hurry.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Well, let's keep moving along, get into off-season team changes, because it's been a while since we talked World Cup downhill racing. And a lot of stuff happened this offseason. A lot of our team members' forums are going off, a lot of gossip about who was going where, and a decent amount of people did switch up teams, which is always cool to see. It makes the first round really exciting. So I'm going to run through just some bullet points here of the highlights I tried to put together. Disclaimer, I'm sure I forgot somebody, so don't beat me up over it. But if you guys have any people that stand out as we go through them, we can dive into it more. Probably the biggest one to start off with is Greg Menard leaving Santa Cruz Syndicate after, I think, like over 15 years to join Norco Bicycles. And I think this is really exciting because Greg's at the end of his career, and doing a change like this, I have to imagine, motivates him to actually go out and finish his career on a strong note. So that'll be really interesting to see. Moving on, Aaron Gwynn has parted ways with Intense and stepped into a partnership with Crestline Bikes. It's kind of part athlete, part owner. It's branded under Gwynn Racing now. And he is supporting Seth Sherlock, who was previously on Intense, and then Mikey, is it De La Salle? I don't actually know how to pronounce his last name.
I think it's DeSalle.
DeSalle? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
Another up-and-comer.
Or De La Salle. I think it's
De La Salle.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so that'll be cool to see. We have a podcast with Aaron talking about his whole move to Crestline that is a really good listen and worth hearing. Aaron's awesome in so many ways, from businessman to mountain bike racer to bike park owner to real estate mogul. The list goes on. But that'll be really cool to see. And Crestline, for people that don't know, is definitely a smaller brand that's been kind of up and coming. And so I can only imagine that his involvement with that brand will be to continue evolving their bikes. So after AG's departure from Intense, you guys have brought your factory team back in-house with Intense Factory Racing. It's led by Joe Breeden, who was also on Intense before, and now he's got Lou Ferguson, Oscar Griffiths, and Ryder Lawrence on the team. Is there anything with that you want to mention? I mean, it's pretty cool to have back in-house again. That's how it's working, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. It's similar to what it was before, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to essentially pull out of racing like a lot of people were going to, and just take a moment to reset, kind of see where the industry went with everything, and give us a moment to focus on stuff. That was a huge bummer. initially because of all the work we put into a badass new downhill bike, and we really wanted it out there. Unfortunately, felt the same and said, dude, I put a lot of work into this bike. I truly believe in it and I love it. Would you mind if I still, built a team around Intense Factory Racing name and race the bike? And we said, dude, if you can make it happen and put together a program, like, we're happy to support it in any way that we can, especially with the bike. So that's what he did. And then same with MS, they were essentially without a frame sponsor, and reached out and asked for support. And we said, unfortunately, like, we're just not in a position to be able to support it. And they said, can we test the bike? And we said, sure. And so I think they tested a couple bikes and came back and asked if they could race the bike. And so we said, we're happy to support that. And so we, it's a much more limited effort than we were in the past, but I think it's a testament, obviously biased and selfishly. I believe the bike is great, but it was great validation to have two teams want to run the bike after testing other bikes. And so happy to just have the teams on the bike and get to see what the full bike and production get to do out on the circuit under two different programs. One highly supported, one less supported, like factory level team and a little bit lower factory. But I'm so excited just from a brand standpoint, a personal standpoint, to see what Joe's team can do. We've chatted a little bit about it. His team, between him, Lou Ferguson, Oscar Griffiths, and Ryder Lawrence now as well. Super cool. I think we should chat about him at some point as a junior.
Yep.
And then the MS team, dude, they've got some hitters too. So I'd be really curious. We have essentially one team that has multiple riders that came from different bikes, as well as a couple of them have ridden the M1 prior to, and then another team that is coming from a completely different platform. And I'm just curious to see how they do with a brand new platform. So stoked with both teams either way.
Yeah. It's cool after all the development you guys put into that bike the last few years to see other people out on it, and like a bunch of heavy names, like people that are definitely going to go fast. So that'll be really cool to see. You kind of mentioned how MS Mondraker is now MS Intense. And so they have Eleanor Farina, David Trumer, Jacob Dixon, and Tehudo Ariki on that team. Penne. So a lot of big names. It'll be cool to see the bike, up under other people.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm stoked, and it's always nerve-wracking. People on it that are at a high level and weren't part of the development process. See how they learn and get on with the bike. And it's been awesome, dude. They've been fantastic and have been loving everything, and literally been like hands off. I've been like, do you guys need anything? Here's some initial setup stuff. And they're like, thumbs up, dude. Love the bike. It's great. Having fun. Like, see you in Fort William.
Best case.
Yeah, best case.
Bad. All right, we'll keep moving down this list here. With MS no longer being a Mondraker team, Mondraker actually pulled their whole effort back in-house for possibly the first time, as far as I know. So they have their own factory team now with Dakota Norton, Ronan Dunn, and Ryan Pinkerton. So that'll be really exciting to see. If anybody listens to us chat, Dakota's another one of our good homies with B Practice Podcast. So his off season's been pretty documented, switching teams. So that'll be cool to see. Valley Hall has moved from Trek back to YT, where she started her career. Saw so much success as a junior. Now she's part of that YT mod program. That'll be really interesting to watch unfold. Danny Hart left Cube and temporarily joined Nuke Proof Continental for Nuke Proof folded, and then he joined the rebranded GT Continental team. Thank God, because I swear if Danny didn't have a team, everybody's going to crowdfund something. There's no way we couldn't see him racing this year. New Zealand brand, gearbox bike brand, Zeroid has started a World Cup team, and they have Brooke McDonald, Sam Blinkensop and Taylor Vernon. That one I'm really interested to see how it goes, because that's one of those brands that's kind of core for people that like different bikes and tech stuff. And it'll be great to see it on a world-class level being raced. Forbidden Bikes has continued to expand their World Cup presence. They added Brooke McDonald, who is joining Connor Fearon for this season. Cade Edwards announced he's no longer racing, which I think we probably all saw this coming. So he's no longer on Trek Factory Racing, and he's on their Trek C3 free ride project. So that's also awesome because I just want to see Cade make the cool shit that he's into. It's great to see him at the races because it's refreshing, but like it fits so well for him to be part of the C3 project.
Kid's just an absolute Swiss Army knife on a bike. It's insane. I don't care what you put him on. You could put him on by himself on a tandem, and he would impress you with what he could do with it. So as long as we get to enjoy watching him shred bikes, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
exactly.
The clips last year of him riding that cargo bike at Lenzerheide were absolutely absurd.
Yeah. And dude, he's like a part of a whole list of riders nowadays that can do everything. I mean, Jackson Goldstone's one of those kids as well, but it's really hard to be a professional mountain biker these days. You got to be everything.
Yeah, and I think that program fits Cade so much better. He's a free spirit and a wild child, so you can't box him on a super pro top level factory team that's kind of real structured, like Trek Factory Racing has come to know and to be. And so I think him being able to express his creativity through bikes is probably what's most important to him. If I know him the way I think I do. So either way, stoked we get to just continue watching that kid get creative. But he's also hurt right now, which is a bummer, but at least he doesn't have that pressure to come back and get results. So he can just take his time, heal up, and then keep going.
Yep. Nico Mullally expanded frameworks to be a full World Cup effort. So he added Angel Suarez, who's previously on Uno, and then he signed Asa Vermette through 2025. So that'll be awesome to see. We'll chat about Asa here in a few. But good on Nico. Kid's really doing it.
Yep. I'm stoked for the kid.
Yep. All right. Jess Blewett joined Q Factory after GT closed down their factory team. Thibaut Deprella, this is probably one of the more interesting ones from this offseason because kind of out of nowhere, he announced he was leaving Commensal Muck-Off after being there for multiple years to join the Canyon Collective. And then about 3 months later, Thibaut and Canyon came to a mutual agreement to part ways. And it was pretty vague, I would say. There's not a whole lot of news or transparency on why he's moved between teams. I would say the only thing I will say is an Instagram post. He stated that he's still going to race the Canyon Center as a privateer this season. And he has now surrounded himself with advisors and lawyers to pursue, if necessary, anyone who still makes insulting or defamatory remarks about him. And I'm not going to be one of those people to make comments. So very interesting. I think in time, maybe we'll learn more. I guess for the time being, it'll be interesting to see how he goes from being on one of the more professional factory teams to creating his own program.
Yep.
Sacha Ernest picked up a Trek Factory Racing spot after her first junior season racing a session. So that's awesome to see. Awesome to see Trek having another junior rider again for this year. The Union switched from Santa Cruz Bikes to Trek. Their team riders for 2024 include first-year junior Ellie Holzbosch, second-year junior Chris Hauser, and then Lockie Stevens McNabb and Frida Roning for elites. Past Union rider Ollie Davis moved to Commensal Schwalbe in February, and then just last week actually announced that he is going to be filling a spot on Santa Cruz Syndicate with Jackson Goldstone being out, which makes a lot of sense because he was riding the Santa Cruz under the Union the past few years and has been an up-and-comer. So that's actually probably one of the ones I'm the most stoked on. It's cool to see.
Yeah, that one will be interesting for sure. Also an interesting move, to sign with a pretty high-level team and then basically a month before the first round say, just kidding, and go to another factory team. So cool of Commensal. If you know how these deals work, it's I'm sure there was something in that contract where they kind of probably could have put a middle finger up and said, no, we have you.
Yeah.
You signed on the dotted line, and sorry, but we got you. But I think that's kind of cool of them to show, like, hey, you know what? The kid got an opportunity that's amazing, and we're not going to get in the way of that. So good on them for letting him go, if there was that in place, and allowing him to kind of flourish. But I think he's going to be somebody to watch this year. He's going to be a dark horse. He had some great results last year, and I don't see a reason why that's not going to continue with even better support. So that'll be cool. Keep an eye on that kid.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if people should go look at Commensal Schwalbe's Instagram post, because they were super cool about like wishing him the best of luck, and I was stoked to see that, because you always kind of get worried, like, oh man, like hopefully no one's bummed, because like you're saying, a lot of effort behind everything.
100%.
Yeah. Ethan Craig moved on from GT Factory to join Scott's DH Factory team. Again, GT's racing program shut down, so good to see him land on another team. Dylan Maples got the call up to ride for Commensal Muck-Off at the end of last year, and I feel like he even thought it was a fill-in ride up until the last round at MSA, and then now he's fully on the team for the whole year. So that's rad to see. Go USDH.
Yep. Yeah.
No, watch the new video also.
Yes. Everybody should go do that. Shout out to our homie Drew for filming it, and you helped.
I did help. I asked a lot of questions and operated BCam. So
you got any insights from Dylan on how he's feeling? I know you guys filmed that a little bit ago, but
dude, I think he's feeling pretty good. He was ripping, obviously, when we filmed him, if you watch the downhill section towards the end of the video. But he's been at team camps. Basically, it was pretty sick, because I think his deal originally was not going to be as big as it is. He wasn't going to be at as many like team camps and traveling with the team as much. And then now was in New Zealand, Australia, he's in Europe. So he's kind of just been full on with Amory, which has been sick.
Yeah. It's good to see, because he is still pretty new to the whole World Cup thing, but he also has that, I don't know him very well, but that personality to where he's like genuinely hyped on every opportunity he's getting. And personally, if I were to be in his spot, they would feel like a lot of pressure to perform when you're getting this opportunity. And he just is stoked on the opportunity and is like, whatever happens. I'm like so hyped to be riding my bike. I'm in New Zealand. I'm in Australia. It's cool to see. He's got a good like head on his shoulders with everything.
Yep, 100%. I think that's a cool opportunity for. It also shows these other U.S. downhill kids, like, hey, put your time in, be there, be present, make sure you're knowing, so that when these opportunities do arise, like, you're at the top of somebody's list to look at. So I try to give that advice to these kids when they go over there for these races. And I said, even if you're not doing well, cruise the pits, shake hands, make friends in the lift line, figure out whose deals are up and when, and who to talk to, and what the team manager's name is. And all that stuff matters when you're trying to find a ride, and especially today, and looking for that kind of stuff. So we have a massive crop of U.S. downhill guys, and I'm stoked to see Dylan be one of the guys that kind of made it onto a factory team, behind Dakota now as well. He's been at it for a little bit, and then now it's this new crop and new generation coming. So if they can lay a blueprint and a roadmap for these kids, even better.
Yeah. And then kind of going along with the Commensal stuff, Antoine Piron moved from Union to IC Studio Commensal, and then now he's on Commensal Schwalbe after Ollie left. So a lot of moving.
The backfill of other people move in, and then Commensal's like, oh, we got like 23 World Cup teams. We can shift some people around here.
Yeah, not saying that Antoine isn't steezy, but it's kind of hard to keep up with IC Studio with Mateo, Stock, and Hugo.
Yeah, that's like Commensal's own version of Trek C3 project, but it's still a World Cup team because they're all ridiculous on a bike. Yeah. I'm not even that caught up on how they do. I'm just there to watch them get sick.
Yep. And then before we round it out, we should talk about Sam Hill and his announcement that he's going to be coming back to racing.
So I think that just got announced like in the last 12 hours, and I saw it got posted on the homepage and didn't actually click on it. So fill us in.
So yeah, he basically just announced that he will be coming back to racing. It's uncertain as to where he will be racing, what team he'll be racing with right now, but he's not retiring. He wants to go out on his own terms and not on the terms of the industry. So and he banked Nuke Proof for the last 11 years or something, or 10 years. I didn't realize it was that long, and 3 world titles, or I think it was 3 world titles. So yeah, I didn't realize. Yeah, it was that long.
I guess flies. I know. I guess that checks out because that horrible scorpion he did in half gel in Norway, I believe, was like 2014. Or so, which.
And he was off of
sadly is a decade ago.
Yeah, because he left Specialized in 2012.
Wow.
Yep. So
time does fly.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Well, that's sick. I could care less what Sam's even riding, as long as we get to see him freaking putting a foot out and hitting corners. I'll be happy.
Yeah, as long as he's got the big 510 boots on, no one cares.
Yeah, that's all we need. Mountain biking still needs that. Cool. Is that anything else with silly season team rumors, or should we go into some off-season races?
I think we're good.
Double thumbs up. Cool. Well, a lot of people were still getting some seat time this off-season, and I kind of like preseason races because you get a little glimpse of maybe who's going fast or who could be up there as we get into the actual World Cup season. Start off with one that's maybe not too much of an actual race, but Hardline in Tasmania was a wild event, and Ronan Dunn kind of showed up, and like his bike didn't show up, and then he got like way less practice than everybody and still went out and won, which I thought was insane. And sounds like he's been really confident on that new Mondraker. So I think that is a glimpse into how he's feeling. And then Lou Ferguson and Gracie Hemstreet were the first women to ever complete a run at Hardline, and which was actually like, I feel like that is the highlight of Hardline, was the women's scene and the progression that happened in a week. It was nuts. I mean, like, yeah, probably one of the coolest things. So shout out to both of them for, leading the way and being an example to show other women.
Yeah.
That, they can be up there just like all the men, hitting
and then,
the same stuff.
Tawny, I think she checked off every feature, I believe. I don't think she raced, but
I think she might have done every feature minus that last jump, because it was just like eating wind. That jump looked so terrifying to hit. Which to me, like, there might have been a few other ladies that were in the same boat as her. And to me, I'm like, you hit all the gnarly techie stuff, just some big ass straight jump that happens to have a lot of wind. It's okay if we don't hit that. All right. New Zealand national champs took place not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. Lockheed Stevens McNabb took first with Tehudo in second. Amory was down there racing. His time didn't count because it was for national champs, but he would have been third, which I think is real promising to see after his whole year off last year. Dylan Maples, Greg Williamson, and Benoit Calanges were all in the top 10. And then Jess Blewett won for the women's ahead of Valley Hall, which was actually, I think tells you some stuff going into this season. There's a lot of talk about Valley, as we'll get into, but there's some other women that I think are going to give her a run for her money. Moving down here, first Portugal Cup of the year. Ethan Craik actually took the win ahead of Loic, Loris, Jack Redding, and Tebow. So another one where I kind of forgot about him a little bit when I was putting all these notes together. And then I'm like, oh shit, this dude, he was up there. He stuck it to everybody. And then in women's, you had Maureen Cabarrou, Lisa Bowman, Phoebe Gale, Michaela Partone, and Lisa Boladu. And Lisa is first year elite. So cool to see her on the podium with some established elite women.
Yeah. And with that, I believe that was Reese Wilson's first race in over a year and a half.
Sick. He's back.
He was in the top 15. It wasn't anything spectacular. And I know he noted on his social media that he kind of was not willing to go full 100%, but he's back racing.
Yeah.
That's the important part after coming back from that kind of stuff is just time on the clock. Sitting in a start gate, you don't want the first time to be at a World Cup and building that kind of those nerves and that callus of racing back up so that you can focus more on going fast rather than dealing with any anxiousness or nerves. So good for him. I'm freaking stoked Reese is back. That's my boy. He's one of my golfing partners when he's out here in the States. So hope he does well this year.
Yeah, for sure. We had quite a few athletes in the last year or two that have been out with head injuries for a real extended period of time. And I can't even imagine just getting back to a race and the fear of just getting hurt right away. I think for him, Trek put out a really cool preseason team camp video this past week. Everybody should go watch. Pretty sweet. But he kind of talks a lot about his expectations are a lot more matured than they once were. And getting back into racing, he knows it'll come with time and he just doesn't want to rush it. And I think that's the best way to approach it. Cause wasn't he out for the past 2 years?
Pretty much.
Yeah. More his last race was it was 2022 season or before then even. It's been a while. So cool. U.S. racing, Tennessee National and the Monster Energy Downhill. Our boy Dakota took first for both of those. Definitely looking good on the Mondraker. From chatting with him at Sea Otter last week, they've been doing a lot of work. It sounds like he has a lot of work that he still wants to do with the bike, but you can't really argue with the clock. So he's going fast. Dakota's always kind of faffing over something his bike needs, as I'm sure John knows. But
very well.
Yeah, but stoked to see. Happy for him. Austin Dooley, Lucas Shaw, Ryan Pinkerton, they were also up there. All those rounds, kind of the names we expect to see with our U.S. crew. Frida won the Tennessee National, and then she got beat by Ali Osgard at the Monster Energy Cup, which is pretty interesting because she's going to be a junior this year at World Cups.
No, she still has another year.
Does she?
Yeah, she's only 16 this year.
Is her racing age not 17 though?
No, it's 16.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. We got to drop her from all the conversations coming up then. Well, that's the hardest thing to find out by way online. If you don't know any of these people personally, and I'm like, when were you born? How old are you going to be on December 31st?
She's somebody to continue to keep our eyes on, though, in terms of, and again, I'm biased towards USDH because we've been kind of lacking for so many years, aside from the big hitters. But dude, it's so cool. I don't think we've ever had a junior woman with that much potential before even being able to race a World Cup. So all the better for her, I think, gain this experience through this new Monster Energy Downhill series, kind of build a reputation and race some bigger tracks and work her way back up or work her way into these World Cup tracks. So I think that's kind of the idea behind this series in the US anyways, is to be a feeder program into World Cup. So she's almost like the perfect person for that. She already has a lot of great results and good potential. So now she'll get to go through this series and get a year of that under her belt before cracking into the World Cups. So yeah, still keep your eye on her and her results and how she's doing. It's going to be exciting.
Yep. Yeah. She's I think on the Monster Downhill, whatever race, 2008 was her year. She was born. So still has another year.
Shout out to Roots and Rain for all of my forever World Cup and downhill research. But I did figure that out that 2007, those are the kids who are racing World Cups this year. which is insane to think about. I don't really want to think about it too much.
You don't have to tell me.
Right. The kids are going to be all right, you know?
You're good.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to some injured reserve list here before we start transitioning into chatting about Fort William in the first round. Definitely the most obvious one is Jackson Goldstone is out with that knee injury he sustained at hardline. And I know at first they were talking like he would be back at some point, or it was hopeful that he'd be back this season. And from what I've been hearing is that he may be back for like the very end of the World Cup season, but at that point, is it really worth it or not? Like, he's focused on healing his knee. It's going to take some time, and he's young. You know, I think we're all greedy and want to see him up there racing, especially while Greg is still out there. It's a cool generation of it's like Jet Lawrence and Eli Tomac right now in Supercross. But we'll get to see him eventually. So
yeah, he has a long career ahead of him. And not very many people come out of the gate as successful as he is. So I have no doubt that even if he didn't race a single time this year, he'll be just fine, and he'll continue to train and come out hot next year still.
Yep, totally. Aaron Gwynn, as far as I know, he's not shown up at Fort William to race. Is that right? Or do you want to confirm that or not, John?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we had a dinner at Sea Otter to just catch up. But to be honest, we basically just cracked jokes. We didn't really talk about work or racing much. But yeah, I think that's pretty much his plan, as he's mentioned before, is to make his effort towards world champs. If he can, I'm assuming if he can jump in on a couple World Cups to kind of just get that experience again and get between the tape on those tracks and get that feeling back, he will at the first shot that he can. Until then, I believe we're going to see him commentating as well. So he still should be at Fort William, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure that's public knowledge. If not, I might have just let the cat out of the bag. But
so Aaron will now be commentating.
I'm pretty sure he mentioned that.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm stoked for him. He's always wanted world champs. That's going to be a cool one. It's on a track that he likes. He's always loved Andorra, and that track last year and the year prior were pretty cool and really fit towards kind of that loose, deep dust and shaly rock that a lot of people struggle with, and Aaron somehow just buries into and goes fast every time.
He's a desert boy.
Yeah.
Feels like home.
Yeah, he's fast there for sure. So regardless if he's been on or off the bike, then he'll still have something for him there, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. He's so mentally strong, and even I remember the last so many years, like, he historically takes a lot of time off his downhill bike in the off season anyways, and then picks it right back up and, you know, picks up where he left off. So
yeah, really try not to peak at the first race, really. You know, you want to kind of crescendo into your season, if that's the right word, but you don't want to peak at round one and then taper off and fall throughout the season and be exhausted and burnt out by the time Worlds and your final round comes around. So, you know, historically, he's never really come out of the gate firing except for a few years, and then just maintained, you know. So the elbow injury is still healing for him. I did ask him about that. I said, how's everything going? Did something, did it not heal right or anything like that? He said, nope, just everything's on track. It's all good. It's just one of those injuries. All the experts and the doctors, he's talked to multiple. You can be sure that he's left no stone unturned. So, and everybody he talks to and works with says, nope, you're right on track. It's just one of those injuries that takes a long time. And then to be able to bring it back to like a high level that an athlete needs it to be. So I think he's just at the point now where he trains and rides as much as he can. As soon as he gets aggravated, lets it chill for a minute, and then right back on it. So he's just kind of pushing the envelope there. And then I'm sure he's hoping to be ready for Worlds. So I'm excited. Anytime that dude's racing, I'm like, heck yes.
Yeah.
I mean, all bias aside and everything like that, like that's a dude that can make crap happen. And if anybody can do it, it's him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would be such a perfect storyline if he did come back and won Worlds. You know, like it's like Petey all those years ago when just World Champs was he never could get it done on that day, and Aaron sort of had the same career. He's like so decorated in every possible way, and the things he's done in the sport, except for that one last little thing. You know, it would be insane to have that happen. So, yeah. Looks like John froze again.
Yeah, he's got his smirk again.
He's just happy to be here, even if he can't talk right now. Cool. Moving through the last few injury lists here. Miriam Nicole, she was out all last season with that concussion and rehabbed that and was finally back riding this off season, and then sustained a thumb injury down in New Zealand and had surgery on it. I think it's been like 6 or 7 weeks now. And at least as of today, this is the Friday before Fort William next week, she was kind of hinting that she could be there racing. Didn't really say for certain. And I think regardless, it would be awesome to see her there, but regardless, expectations are not super high. So
yep. Do you know what happened with her thumb?
I believe it was a ligament issue of some kind.
I think I've got the same one.
Is that what you've done? You did a thumb at
Yeah.
some point, right? Yeah.
Yeah, tore the ligament off of it and
I think that's what she did.
on. Yeah. So yeah, that one it unfortunately takes a little while.
Yeah, I feel like most people who have had injuries know that bones a lot of times can come back quicker than ligaments, that's for sure. So especially, and a thumb is one of those ones that you're like, oh, it's just a thumb. And then you injure it and you're like, holy cow, I can't do anything in my life anymore, let alone ride a bike.
Yeah, thumbs are gnarly. Aaron injured his at Fort William one year, and it was a long process to come back. And being able to hang on to a handlebar is one thing, and then being able to hang on to it for a World Cup track is a whole nother level. So I hope she's good. We need her on track. I like watching her.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure. Definitely. So I guess we'll find out. We'll know in a few more days, probably. And then last one I have written down here is David Trummer, beginning of April, broke some ribs, his shoulder blade, punctured a lung. Sounds like he had a pretty big one, but he's had surgery. I don't know when he'll be back exactly, but it sounds like one of those ones that, assuming his recovery goes normal, we should see him later this season, hopefully.
Yeah, I actually just reached out to him recently to check in on him, see how he's doing, both with him and his team and everything, how he's going. And pretty good. You know, the punctured lung was the most serious of the injuries, and they kept him in the hospital, I think, for close to 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So just to make sure that healed properly before they let him go. And since then, he's just been working with his trainer and his physio to just rehab everything else. Like you said, those are the ribs and the shoulder blade are bones, and they heal pretty standard, as long as, depending on how the break goes. We don't know any details on that, but yep, just checked in on him recently, and sounds like his spirits are high and he's doing all good. So at what point we'll see him back, we don't know. He didn't mention anything like that, so I'm sure he's just taking it as he needs to be healed up on time.
Yep. Is there anybody I am forgetting that is injured that we're not going to see next weekend?
Asa Vermette, potentially.
So
yeah,
I was going to wait until we were talking about predictions, but I texted Nico yesterday, and hopefully Nico's not going to be upset if I mention this. This podcast is coming out next Monday, so by then I'm sure they'll make it public knowledge. But Ace is back riding. Just barely got back on a bike, but he's showing up at Fort William and he's going to go racing, which is awesome for not just all of us US fans that want to see like our up and coming American at the World Cup, but he's like World Cup fast. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's I spoke with him out at the first round of the Monster Energy Pro Downhill Series at Rock Creek. I spoke with Nico, I should say. And he said, obviously, the injury to Asa was a rough one and painful, but no surgery was required, which was kind of the positive of it, and he could just let it heal. So by the sounds of it, I think they spoke with doctors, and they said, as long as you can deal with the pain,
you should be fine to go. So he'll show up. It won't be 100%, but I think it'll be one of those situations where if he can handle it and deal with the pain, then he'll be in the start hut. So that's well, I can't wait to watch him either. I hope he's good and can be smart too. Not push too hard to try to win, but Nico's good at that and helping the young kids and the juniors kind of get the right frame of mind and approach things the right way. He's made all the mistakes for them already.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. It's going to be, I feel like Asa has so much more like racing knowledge than most kids his age. Like I'm not even like worried about if he's going to like overdo it or anything like that. Like he just seems so smart with racing that I'm like, if he's there, he's going to know what to do.
Yeah. And his level is just so high that I was speaking with somebody about this the other day, and in the best way possible, I don't think he knows how fast he is yet. I mean, he knows he's good and he's fast. He's won races and everything like that. But like his level is like here. And like, I think in his mind, he's like, I'm like here and can go faster. And people are like, you can go what? And so it'll be interesting. There's always that disparagement where you think you are and where you actually are. Sometimes you're here and you're faster than you think you are, and sometimes you're here and you're like slower than you think you are. So that's what's super fun about all these predictions for the first round is figuring out how fast everybody actually is and how everything's been going, whether it's been their team changes, personal life changes and bike changes and parts changes or injuries and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm just stoked to watch these kids come up and race.
Yeah. Should we run through the track itself? Old Fort Bill, one of the longest race downhill tracks we have on the circuit. It's right up there with Mont Saint Anne. Also one of the longest tracks as well. I got here a few notes I'll run through real quick. This is actually a fun fact. I thought top speed last year was 39 miles per hour by Andreas Kolb, but Valley Hall was 37.9 miles per hour. Freaking hauling. I'm assuming that's somewhere in the motorway bit at the bottom with the jumps. It's actually like, I would be curious to know what tracks are the fastest, because in my mind, Fort William is not very steep. It's not always the fastest, but it might be the highest average speed because it's pretty drawn out in a lot of the track. You get some, I guess now I'm just going right into talking about the track, but like the upper bit is pretty open. I swear it's been almost the exact same footprint for a decade plus at this point. They do a little tweaks here or there, but if you've been watching downhill for an extended period of time, you probably feel like you could ride the track with your eyes closed yourself because it's been the same for so long. And not a lot to separate everybody, and especially that first split before it gets real rocky. And you got like a really long second split that's kind of the whole upper open bit before you get into the woods. The woods are always a little different every year depending on how they run people through there. I think a lot of time can be lost in there. It doesn't seem like maybe as much time could be gained necessarily. And then you get into like the lower bogs that's real straight and flat, and then you get the whole motorway bit. And I think a lot of years we see that motorway come into or play a big factor because there's 30 seconds plus up for grabs, and sometimes people will lose or gain 2 seconds on it. I mean, you're like 4 minutes in or 3.5 into like a very brutal track, and you can see what people have been doing in the off season pretty clearly on that last section.
Yep. It's a big track and you got to be ready for it. It's an interesting first round for sure. Typically Fort William comes in around, round 3-ish, 3 or 4 typically. So you kind of have your chance to build into your season a little bit.
Yep.
Like I mentioned before, you're getting your build on, and so you're prepped, you're ready, you've been racing for a few weeks and things like that. So now it's just first round out of the gate. This is one of the big conversations I had with Ryder Lawrence before going over there. He's a first-year junior. He's ripping, but he's coming off an injury as well. And so I said, luckily his team and Joe Breeden, are big fans of team camps and going over early and putting time in. So they all went to Fort William a couple weeks ago and So he actually got to go ride the track and like really see what he's in for and get the flow of things. So he understands kind of what's going on there. And and knows what it's going to take. That's probably the most important part, like you said. But it's an iconic track. That upper section doesn't change much. Pretty much from what everybody calls the cattle guard down, from the cattle guard to like the motorway is kind of the middle section that they'll swap out and they'll change. You either kind of go right or left and then down into the woods. So it's going to be interesting. Like you said, we'll know who did their homework.
For sure. Yeah, it is interesting with it being the first round. Like I was looking it up and like I think historically it's always been in June. I think last year was kind of the first year it wasn't because it was Worlds. Because I was just curious if that was going to play a factor with weather or more of a chance of weather. But looking at the weather next week, it looks fairly moderate. It's going to be a little bit colder than it usually would be. But I would say of all the tracks, Fort William handles rain really well. I think a lot of the track probably rides better because it's that DG, except for like the woods that can get boggy.
Yeah, that's the only part you got to worry about in the wet.
Yeah. So let's start talking about race predictions. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think and who you're excited to watch go racing. But let's start with juniors. I have my layout here actually wrong, but let's start with junior women first. I mean, this is a class that has been really exciting to watch develop the last so many years, ever since just the junior fields have been taken a lot more seriously in the most recent years. And last year with it being broadcasted kind of shifted it up a gear. But with junior women, last year we had Valentia Rose Sanchez, Lisa Boladu, first and second in the overall. And then both of them are moving up to elites. So Reese Van Leuven was third and Sacha Ernest was fifth last year in the overall. And I think it's going to be quite a battle between the two Kiwis. And then you also have the first year junior, Ellie Holzbosch. I believe she's riding for Union. And I think that dynamic is going to be really interesting. Like looking at some of the races they've all done together. Ellie's been ahead of Reese and Sacha at some of those races. And then you start to work in that we've got Tilly Melton, US racer for transition bikes. I think she has a lot of potential. I don't know how much she's raced in Europe, and I think that'll be maybe one of the biggest learning curves for her, not just going fast, but all of the other things with traveling and being in a different country. All my notes about Ali Oscar don't count anymore because she's not racing.
Her sister is, though. We have to remember there's Taylor Oscar, who was 8th overall last year. So with a few of those junior women moving up to elites, few of the, like you mentioned, the up and comers coming in, and then it being her second year elite.
Is she second?
I believe she's elite now. She's 2005.
See, yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, Jason. When you find out live, it's tough out there. So either way, she'll be interesting to watch, see how she goes in elite. If she can pop into that fast crowd too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was some of my notes with Ali. If she was going to be racing, is that she's gotten to watch her sister, do the whole thing, which still has validity, of course, regardless if she's racing next year for her first year. And I think Taylor was also building a lot of momentum through last year as a junior. So, watching her move up to elite, I think she does have a lot of potential. Just doing your junior years on the World Cups is massive. I mean, like that was not really a thing when we grew up racing, and it benefits you a ton doing it that way.
Yeah, I'd even argue we could probably do a whole podcast on just this subject, but I would love to see junior racing, or the juniors get at least 3 years of racing before they move up to elite, and potentially even 4. Just to give them that time and experience, learn the tracks, and really like develop them for a world level team and track and circuit. So 2 years is not a lot of time. It's the first year you're just trying to figure things out. second year, like unless you're just coming out of the gate firing like the Jackson Goldstones, even that second year can be a struggle and figuring things out, which a lot of the junior boys figure out as well and run into that issue. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're just thrown into the deep end with the elites. So I'd like to see at least maybe one more year, and especially, and some of the junior racing, as we've seen, has been equally exciting as the elite racing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you factor in that you only have, when you're 17 and 18 racing age, 2 being juniors, and you could get injured for one of those years. And now you're left with 1 year to get your feet wet before moving up to elites. Like, with comparing it to Supercross and the 250 and 450 class, like it's not really age tied. It's more time in the class before you can move up to the other one. And I totally agree. Yeah.
And it's not 10 or 15 rounds per year. They're getting, depending on the season, 7 to 9 chances at the world level. And so it's a short season.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on to junior men here. Kind of a similar situation where we got the top 3 from last year's overall are all moving up to elite. So Ryan Pinkerton, Bodie Kuhn, and Leo Abea all going up to elites, which is going to be really exciting. I think all of them have a really strong chance of being in the teens positions. And I'm stoked to see it, especially our boy Pinky. I think he's looking hot. He's looking quick this year. So, but other than that, for juniors, I think Chris Hauser, one of the remaining second-year juniors, could be his championship to almost lose in that sense. Like, you would expect him to be the one to come out and everybody be trying to catch up to him. But there's a bunch of fast names. I mean, we already talked about Asa. When I was doing my research, there's a New Zealand kid riding for Yeti named Tyler Waite. And that kid's actually been blowing my mind a lot the more I've looked into him. He's pretty much won anything he's entered in like the last 2 years. And at a lot of New Zealand national rounds and national champs, had fastest time of the day, which is also insane. And I think, do I have notes on it? I think it could be, oh no, that's right. He went last year over to Europe and did some of those rookies cups, which I think is huge to just, especially being from Southern Hemisphere. It's a big jaunt to get to Europe. So much to just understand, and doing it once, I'm sure helps a ton. I almost feel like it could be a battle between him and Asa a little bit as those new kids up and coming. And then also there's the Allran, or I'm probably not saying it with the correct French accent, Allran brothers, Till and Max.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Both riding for Commensal Muck-Off, and also 2 names that I think they're going to be really impressive. It's tough to make a call for this first round, especially with juniors, and especially in a class that's got so much competition right now, because a few of them are going to come out and just throttle tap and maybe not hold on to it by at the bottom. And I didn't actually make this, I didn't have a plan for this podcast if we're going to pick our own winners. Maybe we should. I was more trying to give people the details that they need to know. But what stands out to you guys about this class?
Dude, I mean, there's so much, and it's tough to keep track of the juniors. My focus has been very, it's just been very focused on elite, and especially my own guys. But like you said, there's going to be the up and comers. Probably the Christian Hauser. I'm watching him to do well. He had a lot of really good results last year. Pretty sure he won in, or was it
his first race?
Yeah, Switzerland. Yeah. Yep. So he won there. So he's got potential. What's his name? Nathan Pontvidian?
Pontvion.
Yeah, the pig bike kid. I think he ended up second overall last year, maybe won the last round. So if he's still there, I think as a second year guy, he's going to be up there with Christian and could be a potential threat. I'm obviously going to go with my boy Ryder Lawrence. It's his first year, but I just can't wait to see how he does. So he's going to be my wild card. And even his teammate, Oscar Griffiths, he flies under the radar a lot, didn't do well in the overall, didn't do well in a lot of races last year. But when you go and look at his splits, I like to do that too. Look at a few guys and look at their splits, regardless of their results, especially as a junior, and the races that they're at. And if they have those top 3 splits before either mechanical or crash, which is what happened to Oscar, that's where you can see that potential, and you want to see the growth in the off season and see how they do the following year with a little bit more experience. Maybe they back it down from 120% to 105 as a junior, you know how they get, and that kind of stuff. So those are the ones I'm looking for, the less than obvious ones. Even like, he might be moving up. Dane Jewett. I think he might be moving up first year lead.
One of the Jewetts is still a junior.
Is he? I don't know.
Just
I can't
research real quick.
Yeah, I
Jamie.
can't remember which one. Yeah, so that's always somebody to watch as well. I think those guys. Dom Platt with the Atherton team, if he's still got another year in junior, he's got some potential as well. So the junior class is fun because you get to kind of disregard results because of experience and age. You know, they're wild, they're young, they try crazy things, and they blow up, either have mechanicals or they crash because they're trying to go too fast. And so I like looking deeper in the results list at juniors and then start looking at split times and how they do at certain rounds, what the conditions were and things like that. So I think we're going to see a good mix up in this class.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially going into the first round on such a historic and gnarly track, I kind of want to put my money on Chris Hauser just because he has the experience, and like you're saying, a lot of these other names might come in at that 120%, just guns blazing. So, I think I really want to see Asa, of course, but with him coming off an injury, I think we might be a few rounds till we see what he really has.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I think it's Dane Jewett. He's
staying in.
I think he's the one that's gonna come out swinging and kind of under the radar.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Like he had really good Crankworks result last year, and some other good World Cup results. But yeah, I think he's been doing pretty good in the off season too. I was like looking, and yeah, he won Tennessee National in the 17-18 class, and then was 4th in elite at the last NW Cup.
Sick.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, and both those brothers have pretty dope style on a bike. So, it's actually, you have to be good, look good on a bike now to be an up and coming professional mountain biker. That's just part of what it takes. You can't just be fast. So,
yep.
Well, then we breezed over junior women picks. Let's go back to that real quick and throw out some names that we're each excited to see. I'm gonna go with Arise van Leuven because when she didn't crash last year, she basically won, and I'd like to think that year 2 for her, a little bit more maturity. I think people are going to be chasing her down this year. She also won Worlds there at Fort William. So, yeah. What do you guys think? You have a different name? All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, if we're just going for wins, like tough to eliminate that possibility. Just to play devil's advocate and mix it up a little bit, I'll go with Sasha.
Sick. I like it. Hard to pick a bad one with juniors these days, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We're very lucky. And you can watch it for free still. You don't have to have a subscription to watch juniors. So,
yep.
Become a fan, learn the names, learn who all these up and coming races are.
Yep.
Sweet. Let's keep moving along. Let's go down to elite women here. Kind of hard not to just bank on Valley Hall to be back at home on a YT where she spent so many years. Come back to Fort Bill where she won Worlds last year. She's reigning overall champ. To me, everybody's playing catch up to try to match where she's at. Not to say that Cami, Nina, really Marin. Everybody else, I think, will be up there. But to me, it's Valley's kind of season again to lose. And then I'm most excited to watch those junior women we mentioned that moved up, Valentina, Rose Sanchez, and Lisa Boladu. I think it'll be really cool to have some refreshing names and kind of see where they fit into the mix, especially at this first round. Like, I'm sure they're coming out wanting to prove something. So.
Yeah, tough to go against Valley. She's just rock solid. I don't think it really matters what bike she's on. You do have to remember that YT has a new bike. And so not only is it a new team, but it's a new bike for her. So although familiar, I don't imagine that bike is a big departure from their last one. May or may not have gotten a sneak peek of it at their team camp this off season. So it's tough to go against Valley there. But Nina Hoffman, dude, she's like steady Eddie, and just a beast on the track. So I think she's had some good solid years. She's comfortable on her team. She has experience now. She's really like settling in, let's call it like her kind of the sophomore junior portion of her career, and is building that confidence in her craft and her racing. So I expect to see Nina up there. I'm going to go with Nina for Fort William.
That's on the same page over here. I was going to say Nina. She's just so strong, and when it comes to the long tracks and stuff, I don't think it's going to be hard to compete with Nina on strength. I know Valley has a lot of raw speed and talent, but new bike, and I feel like I haven't heard too much about Valley in the off season, so not really sure where she's at, but Nina is just a beast.
Yeah. We can't count her out. And I mean, dude, the all the normal ones, Marine Caribou, she'll be up there. Monica Ransnick, Camille Blanche, dude, you can't count any of them out. Tawny Seagraves, she can be a dark horse, dude. She's small but mighty, and it might be a big track, but she's not scared of it, and she's familiar with it. So Canyon also has a new bike, and that could be an advantage for her depending on how her off season and the testing has gone with that. Dude, Gracie Hemstreet, she's crushing it. We saw her obviously at Hardline do really well, so we know that she's not afraid of a big track or rough stuff. So she could be up there too.
Yeah, a lot of names, a lot of wild cards as well. I mean, as you're going back through all this, like Cami to me stands out. Cami Blanche, just because she was second at basically most of the races last year up until she got hurt in Andorra and was out for the rest of the year. And she's so strong too. Like a track like Fort William, I was trying to look it up. I don't think she's had a ton of success there. She's always been fast, of course, but I think that depending on where she's at in her recovery and how her off season was, we might get her sort of building like we've been talking a lot of people might do with the first round. But I also think she could be one like Nina that just comes out like has maturity, has the speed, definitely is fit enough.
And a lot of stuff, anybody who knows me close knows that I touch on this subject a lot, but confidence is huge. Confidence equals speed. And so she has a lot of stuff going for her. I don't know where she's sitting with her confidence right now, but she doesn't have a lot of change in her program. She's still on the same team. It's a similar bike. And so those are factors that she doesn't have to worry about now. So as long as she's focused on her recovery and comes back, then there's no reason why she can't be up there as well.
Sweet. I dig it. Let's knock out the last category here. Elite men. I'm just going to start with who I think is going to come out guns a-blazing, and that's Amory. I think he has won there a bunch. You cannot count him out at Fort William. And for all this talk about confidence, like you're saying, he is somebody to me that he could take a whole year off, and when he gets back in the gate, like the homie's brain shuts off. It's all about winning. Anything that's happened in the past is in the past now. And I think he's really hungry. Like getting hurt at the first round last year sucked, but he also just seems so frustrated. And I think the only thing that could hold him back is just doing that 120% for too long and maybe not finishing a run. But really excited to see him back racing. It's going to be cool.
Yep.
Man, I think looking at the start list and of injuries aside, look at the overall from last year, and I think anybody inside the top 15 can win, like truly. And if you just go down the list, it's Menard, Jordan Williams, Laurie Greenland, Ronan Dunn as a possible wild card. Lucas Shaw had those years in Brilliance where he was flirting with the win, and I don't doubt that he still has that in him. Dakota Norton, dude, 100% that guy can win there. Troy Brosnan, he has one win there in his career. He's got consistency. It's Bernard Kerr was showing a lot of consistency last year, dude. Andy Kolb, that guy for sure can win, and he's getting a lot of consistency and confidence in his program. And there's Loris Verger. He is like a freaking train. That guy just is unshaken. Amazing technically on a bike. If you watch him ride, his technique is so it's like a knife's edge, dude. It's sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can't count out Loic. Obviously we don't have Jackson here, so that's a bummer, but dude, I don't know. I had Omri on my notes to think about because he's coming back, and it's I love the comeback stories. You can't count those dudes out. Gosh, I don't know who I would go.
It's like the throw a blanket over all of them. It's tough. And I will say Loic is somebody that's not on my list because historically he has never done well at Fort William, and he is the total build through a season individual as well. I almost picture him coming into this first round like, let's start the season. You can't win the championship around one, but you can definitely lose it mentality.
Yep.
But Greg's another one for sure. I mean, Greg's so strong, always has done very well there. And, first showing on the Norco, I can only imagine that he has high expectations for himself.
Yep.
And then there's Charlie Hatton. Like, he won Worlds last year there.
Yep.
He kind of got the rug pulled out from underneath him afterwards, like breaking his wrist a round or two later, which was unfortunate. But I think, the confidence thing, showing up somewhere where you won the year before has got to be huge for someone like him.
Yep. And he's shown that that hasn't really affected him that much. He won a British national just a week or so ago.
Yep.
So he's still there, and there was no slouch of riders there. I think Joe Braden was there, Jordan Williams, so he's right back up to speed. I think what we really have to look at, we can point out the obvious ones. Omri has a chance, obviously, but the big ones, Loic and Loris, they're so good. Finn Isles, you can't forget about him. He's really coming into his own in his career and building towards consistently fighting for wins, and is going to start knocking them off soon. But I like picking those gambles, those guys that are they have the grit and they want to win, like they're itching for it and they're freaking gunning for it and like laser focus on it, versus the guys who've been there, they've done it. They'll be stoked if they're going to win, but they're going to try to win the championship, more longevity stuff. So when you think about it from that perspective of those laser focused dudes who are you kind of gritty and going for it, Dakota Norton pops out in my mind.
Yeah.
And his teammate Ronan Dunn. I don't think Ronan that kid is leaking talent everywhere. And I know a lot of people notice it and they see it, but I still think he's in that dark horse category still a little bit of an underdog.
He's honing that talent still.
He is too. And he was just outside the top 10 overall last year, 12th, I think I'm looking at. But dude, it's like he would either be 20th something or top 10 knocking on podiums, and so you can tell he's lasering in. So I'm gonna look at those Mondraker guys to see how they're gonna do this year. And Pinkerton too, dude. The kid won juniors last year, first year elite, and he is. I know you two know we've all ridden with Pinky on our local trails out here. The kid is
lethal.
Lethal. and insane, and even at the races and stuff. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna go with the wild card with Dakota Norton, and just because he wants it, like, and I know he wants it real bad. So I'm gonna go with Dak.
He probably just made his day.
Dude, you should. He sent me a picture of. I don't know. We'll find out if he's gonna ride these things, but he sent me a picture of some bars that are. I think they're like 80 mil, potentially 90 mil freaking rise bars. And
We've been talking about it.
Yeah, I just shook my head and I said, "Those make me upset." Just so you know, like, stop it.
We've been talking about how once you get into that range, you're going to need a crossbar.
Yeah.
He 100% may need a crossbar. Those things are going to break or flex way too much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so funny.
But I told him we can sit here and talk about his setup until we're blue in the face. We can make fun of it. We can judge it. We can say it looks dumb. We can say it looks sick. It doesn't matter. And I'll tell you what I told him all the time. I said, I may or may not like it. That doesn't matter, Dakota. Just do you. And as long as you're putting that thing on the box, then you can tell everybody to shut up. And so whatever that kid wants to do, man, I'm here for it. I'm going to watch it. And it doesn't matter if I like it or not, or if it makes me laugh. Like, if he's putting it on the box and fighting for wins, like, dude, heck yes, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a very fair dark horse, and Dakota is only a few results away from not really being a dark horse, just being a contender, right?
I think that's an unfair name for him. I don't think he is a dark horse. I think he's a true competitor. He's a true threat to the win, and he showed it last year. Qualifying first and fighting for wins and getting podiums, and he's at the point now where he can have a shitty run and be top 10. Where before, only a few years ago, a shitty run was hopefully a top 20, maybe top 30. So his expectations have risen, his skills have risen. He's honing his craft. He's working on himself personally from a development standpoint. It's like he's growing, he's matured, and he's really coming into his own. I think he's coming to that point where he's going to be a consistent threat. I don't think he's a dark horse at all. I think he's truly somebody who deserves to be fighting for wins, and he is.
Sweet. You got anybody you want to add in there, Tanner?
My dark horse is Angel Suarez. I think, I think being on Nico's program, kind of having that back home feeling in the pits with him and Nico, and I think the pressure might be off of him a little bit more than when he was on Uno and YT. So, yeah, I think Angel is going to come out swinging, and he was fastest in the last split. So
7th at Worlds, good on the pedals. No, I think that's fair. I know I keep leaning towards like the dudes that are kind of like taller, bigger, like Benoit and Kolb are my wild cards. I know they'll be up there regardless, but wild cards that could come out and win. And they're both dudes as well that, they've won a World Cup now. So they have that memory of what it takes to put that all together, which I think is huge. Like, once you've done it, you know what that is like. And yeah, both of them are same team, same program, like the consistency is rolling, right?
What do you think about Ethan Craig?
Yeah,
that's true. Him too.
I think he sounds like he's getting along with that Scott awfully well based on his off season.
Yeah. He did so well at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And looks like he's getting on well with his bike now. First race. So it's like, we don't truly know. That'll be a good question to see if he can carry over that confidence from here almost winning Mont Saint Anne.
True.
The other one I was thinking of was Jordan Williams too.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to see how he's matured. He's now the team isn't new anymore. The bike isn't new anymore. He's gotten a little bit older. He's got the experience. He himself said that it was a lot to take on winning that first race. His manager, Laurent, the team manager, I spoke with him after that last year, and he said, my only goal was to, kind of in like French broken translation, was to protect him from everything, because he knows with Loic how much attention comes after a win. And he knew that Jordan sounded like probably wouldn't be prepared to handle that. So he tried to shelter him and say, just kind of wave off all the media, all the sponsors reaching out, asking for the obligations and saying, dude, hey, we're stoked for him, but don't put the pressure, please. Just let him go out there and perform, and focus on racing and doing as well as he can. And that's a good team manager there. You use it for your marketing, you use it to promote your team and everything that you do there, but you also don't let it hinder your athlete, because they can feel obligated to appease everybody, and that can take away your focus from racing and training. And so I think he did a good job of reeling that in and kind of letting him experience it a little bit and seeing the effects that it has on you. So yeah, Jordan Williams is 100% going to be somebody that you're going to have to watch this year. I have to back up to elite women. I think Eleanor Farina from MS, and she's on my mind, obviously, because she's on her bikes now, but yeah, European champion, like Italian national champ. She had her injury last year, but she's had a lot of podiums over the years and is up there. I'm not saying she's going to come out and win, but she's not on the radar because of her injuries last year. And so new bike, and I think she'll do really well on that as well. So just wanted to bring that back up because it just popped back in my mind. I was like, ooh, yep, could be good there. And they've had a good offseason, a lot of offseason racing and training too. So that seems to be part of it all.
So many names. There's so many in every class, especially the elite fields, though. I mean, it's it'll be really fun to do this after Fort William before the second round. Things will settle a bit more once we have one result and we kind of see how everybody is getting along with new programs or coming back from injury, and all those storylines will start to kind of present themselves. I think I'm out of notes and people to talk about.
Yeah, we have to remember too that the second round is Poland and a whole new track. So that's going to like level the playing field in that aspect as well. So these first two rounds are going to be interesting to see how they all settle.
Yep, totally. I agree.
But
yeah,
I mean, we could talk a lot about the predictions.
I know,
and a lot of people.
Yeah, we'll give people some names to think about, and then can't tell you who to pick. This is all fantasy based, which is really entertaining because now we all get to be competitive from behind our computers with all of our friends versus just like shooting the shit like this. Like, oh, I think so-and-so is going to do well. I think so-and-so is going to do well. It's like, well, now you can put it down on paper. Let's see how it unfolds. Okay, one or a few things just I was going to mention as we kind of wrap this up. The schedule is slightly changed from last year to this year. So still qualifying, semifinals, and finals for elites. But last year they had put semifinals and finals on the same day. Now we're doing qualifying for all classes and semifinals for both elite fields on Friday. And then Saturday is finals for all four categories, which I think will be a great change to how it was last year. It'll bring back that excitement for one final round or final race run that counts. I know semifinals was kind of watering that excitement a little bit. And then as far as how to watch, I was trying to get some info for everybody on how to actually watch downhill World Cup racing because it's not that straightforward. But your best option, because it changes depending on the country you live in, is just to Google it. You're going to probably have to get a subscription to watch elite men and women's finals. Juniors finals is still supposed to be on YouTube, as well as semifinals for both elite categories. So nothing else, you can at least watch some of the racing. And from a fantasy standpoint, We are closing. You have to get your picks in basically before finals. So you can wait and watch qualifying and semifinals to get those, really get some last solid predictions on who's going to do well. And then you got to submit them before finals. Because this is the first round, we have to wait for the actual UCI rider list to come out, which is supposed to come out on Wednesday. So unfortunately, we're going to put this podcast out on Monday. We're not going to open fantasy until that happens, which is probably Wednesday. So it's going to be a little bit more of a rush for this first round to get your picks in, but hopefully the excitement's so high, everybody's going to be pretty tuned into everything going on, and please play. It's been a fun / big lift for our crew to get off the ground. And I've been playing like our Vital MX Fantasy League all year. It's very entertaining. It pulls you into the racing a lot more than if you just look at the results sheet at the end of a weekend. It's fun to become more of a fan of all these athletes and stuff. So I think that's kind of it. Fort William. It's going to be a good race. I'm excited for it. Thank you two, for joining on this conversation. It'll be fun to keep doing these throughout the season and get our storylines going and who's looking fast. Anything else you guys want to add? Or
No, I'm stoked. I can't believe it's here already. It's a little bit different for me. I'm typically probably flying out in a day or two to the first round, or already there and preparing. So it's different for me watching it from afar. Glad to have some of that stress removed, and I can just focus on watching and enjoying the racing. So looking forward to that. And I can't believe it's already here. So round 1, let's go.
Right on. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for supporting independent mountain bike media. And Tanner and I will see you after Fort William for our B Practice podcast show with Dakota Norton. So see you guys then.
See you, boys.
Peace.
See ya.